What's up, freak bitches, wherever you may be, however you may be watching, thank you for giving us some of your time. And we are back with my hetero life mate, Mr. Jeremy Woolner, for Season 2, Episode 4 recap of The Mandalorian. What's up, brother?
What's going on? I I'm ready for this episode. There was a lot of awesome shit in it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about kind of the theme of this episode here in a second. I really like what they're doing with all this, but we'll get into that in a second. We'll dive right into it. The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4 is titled The Siege, and the show reminds us where it all started a little bit in this episode. Now, The Mandalorian Season 2 took a real nostalgic turn with this episode when it hit Disney Plus, and it brought us back to the live-action Star Wars show's roots. Whereas last week's episode was kind of a major treat for fans of the Clone Wars, this one really does pay homage in a lot of ways to George Lucas's original trilogy. Now, Episode 4, titled The Siege, was directed by Carl Weathers, who also plays Hunter Boss Grief Karga. It was written by series creator Jon Favreau, and it sees the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, stopping for repairs as he's bringing Baby Yoda, the child, to find the former Jedi, Ashoka Tano. Why can't they just give these Jedi normal names? That way they don't have to tie me up like this.
Come on.
Mando, he returns to Navarro, the Outer Rim world where we got to know in Season 1. And since he's left, the Rebel Alliance soldier turned mercenary Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano, has been dispensing justice as Karga's enforcer, or essentially the town sheriff, while she tries to transform the place into a respectable trading post. Now, what did you think of kind of the evolution of what this town was from the first episode where we saw it to where we're seeing it now in this episode?
Well, Kara definitely did some good things, and I assume it's also with Carl Weathers' character, and I already forgot his damn name too. I just after instead of Ahsoka Tano like it was nothing, and I'm like, what was his name though?
Grief Karga.
Grief Karga, yeah. Yeah, so they've obviously, I don't know how long it's been since Mando's been there, or I guess all three of them, right, have been there together. It's been some time, but hey, they managed to put a school together and kind of turn things around. It's kind of nice. I mean, we started out seeing, obviously Kara just kicking all kinds of ass as she does, because
because she's Kara.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was saying this before we started. Like I don't know. I try not to just say if I have a favorite character. I don't want to just like cop out and say, oh, it's obviously Mando. I'm like, I love Mando, trust me, that's a given. But I'm like, I think one of my favorite characters, I always kind of just like, I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I like her. She's pretty badass. She's got these little facial expressions and just like dry kind of like sarcasm and humor that I just love. Maybe that's just because that's just how I am. I don't know. But yeah, they've put some good things together. And I don't know, maybe it's. And obviously the whole, like, with the story of this episode, not everything is obviously kind of tied up because they've got that facility they're looking at on the other side of the planet.
Well, yeah, it's a good time to talk about that facility. While the Razor Crest is being repaired, Mando ends up joining them in wrecking this Imperial Remnant base, which is, to them, the final step in making Navarro completely safe. The action of this episode is absolutely killer, and watching them sneak and shoot around the base and take out TIE fighters really does invoke a lot of the imagery of the original trilogy, specifically A New Hope, especially when the speeder bike chase is happening. It kind of echoes Return of the Jedi a lot. I actually, like, the action in this entire series from start to finish is just fantastic. I can't find any fault with it at all. The one thing that's becoming a bit of a trope with this series, though, and it actually made me cringe a little bit internally as I was watching this episode, is it seems like every episode, the plot generally revolves around, I'll give you help to get to your ends if you do this for me. And then it's just kind of this endless series of of trading favors with somebody to give them a piece of information that is just really just the next step. And I get that's kind of how this thing is supposed to go, but it's getting a little bit tired.
Yeah. It's what you do and how you get ahead, and I don't know, in life and anywhere in this galaxy, and pushing the story along. And it does feel kind of video gamey. And I'm like, well, yeah, we're doing fetch quests, and hey, I'll do this if you do this, and well, we can help her out. I'm like, yeah, I know, we're trying to get to this point, and it does kind of seem like that. Can I mention one thing? Because okay, I like scan the hell out of the screen when I'm watching. I don't just focus because I know that they're trying to make me like watch something and keep my focus on something. But I'm looking in the background of that classroom that they left the child in, Him stealing the cookies was hilarious. It's probably the best part about the episode.
Yeah.
For one. But for two, one of the kids, I don't know, because I know how this series likes to, we're like, hey, here's little things from the original trilogy. Here's, we started seeing it. Now, there was a kid in, like, a couple rows back in the middle. She had, like, Rey's hairstyle from the seventh movie, which is for some reason blanking on. She had the same little three, like, ponytails or buns, whatever they're supposed to be, going down her head. She was, like, super young. I'm like, is that Rey? Because she was kind of young. We don't really know what planet she was on, right? It did seem kind of deserty and kind of... I know Jakku was like the discount Tatooine, and Navarro's kind of like discount of the discount.
Kind of, yeah.
but could that... I don't know. Could that have been where she was? Because she was about that age, and then this is right before The Force Awakens. I got it. I came back. Force Awakens. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I just saw that and I'm like, that kid looks exactly like Rey, and I was like, wait, it has the same little hairstyle and shit, and I'm like, I don't know if that could be her.
I really kind of hope not, because I think it shrinks the universe a little bit. That's what we were talking about the last episode. I want the universe to expand, and I think when you shrink the universe down, you're not doing it a whole lot of favors. I mean, it could be, it couldn't be. I don't know, but I mean, it would be an interesting kind of call out to the movie, but I don't think it didn't
call a whole lot of attention. It wasn't like a focus point. I just noticed it. I'm like, wait a minute, it kind of looks like Rey, and I'm like, she would be pretty young right now, and I don't know if that's where she was left. Like we kind of vaguely saw throughout the series, the new trilogy. I don't know. That was just me.
But we do see some things that could potentially, be explained in this newer trilogy. On the base, the heroes end up being horrified at the sight of some very twisted creatures in test tubes, and they are beings that look like First Order Supreme Leader Snoke and the clones that are seen in Emperor Palpatine's lab on Exegol and Rise of the Skywalker. So we could be kind of moving towards that anyway. Now, what we end up seeing as as they go to set the base to self-destruct, something about not cooling some lava and letting the place blow up. They end up coming across all this.
It's a hot place, man.
Yeah, and they find this holographic message from Dr. Pershing, who we haven't seen since early in Season 1, played by Omid Abtai. He's sending this message to Moff Gideon and revealing exactly why they wanted Baby Yoda. So we start to get a big view of what the overall storyline of this whole thing is with this one particular scene. Apparently they've tried to use the blood harvested from the Force-strong little guy to replicate his powers in others, but apparently it hasn't gone very well. And this message, Pershing says, there were promising results for an entire fortnight, but sadly the body rejected the blood. I highly doubt we will find a donor with higher M count, though. And he's obviously referring to Baby Yoda's midichlorian count, and we won't go too much into that whole mess from the prequel trilogy. But you do start to get kind of a broader picture of exactly what they're trying to do. The First Order remnants of the Empire, exactly what they're trying to do and why they wanted Baby Yoda in the first place.
Yeah, it seems like, because this is like one of those, I don't want to say classic stories, tales old as time, but they're trying to like do all this genetic testing on something, and it's, and I'm assuming a lot of it didn't, because they probably either they know that this is their experiments, their their test subjects are not going to accept it, or they don't have, like you said, they don't have someone who has enough, like basically the blood of a Jedi, who's someone who would be that strong with the Force, like Yoda himself, who obviously is long gone by now, and anyone of his race who, again, that's the thing, when you actually think about it, you're like, wait, don't actually know anything about Yoda, really, like what his species is, how long they live, if they even live as long as Yoda did, or is it because like they specifically have some really strong connection to the Force?
I don't even think that Yoda's like the name of Yoda's species has ever been officially named throughout any canon, either the novelizations and stuff like that, or the movies. I don't think his species of people has ever been given a name. I think they've only actually been in all the collected works of Star Wars that have ever been done, all stuff that's now canon and the now legend stuff, I think there's only been 3 characters of his species, including him.
I think,
And they've never
yeah,
actually
I
been
think so.
delved into at all. So, I mean, maybe that's something that we could be getting at some point in the future through this series, is finally getting some background into Yoda's particular species.
Yeah, and as I was about to say, it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that somebody is going to try. I mean, who else too? Soon to be First Order is going to try and want to harness that kind of thing for themselves, because the other person, like they said, I know I want to talk about the Phantom Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones, sorry, and Revenge of the Sith, but they mentioned that Anakin had a much higher metachlorian count than even Master Yoda had. So it's like, that is also kind of your other. They don't have Vader anymore either. So I'm like, maybe because you said that they kind of look like they're putting Snoke together and also maybe Emperor Palpatine. Because who do they even have? They don't have Darth Vader, or they don't really have the Emperor. So maybe they kind of need that on their side to kind of push things in the direction that they want it to go, and they don't really have any other way to do it.
It seems pretty clear. It seems pretty clear that Giancarlo Esposito's character Moff Gideon is trying to create some Force-sensitive beings with Yoda's blood. But why do you think he's trying to do it? Do you think he's trying to do it for his own ends? Is he knowingly working for Palpatine, who we assume at this point has been reborn and is doing his stuff that we would eventually see in this newer trilogy? Or do you think he's unknowingly doing something for the hidden Emperor? I mean, what do you think his motives are?
Well, that last little shot, I mean, when he was in that officer came in to tell him something and said, like, yeah, see, and I hate that I caught that. As soon as the Mando got off his ship and like walked on to Navarro, that little alien just kind of stopped and like looked back, and I was like, that motherfucker's gonna do something. I know it. There he is at the fucking end, like, hey, I put the tracking beacon on the Razor Crest. I'm like, bitch. But I know it's like she gets me upset, but I'm like, I know we gotta. Oh crap! Here come the bad guys, kind of moment. But yeah, and he was looking down that little hallway of what I assumed were, maybe it seemed like a faction of. Is he trying to make like some sort of super soldiers or something? Like you're saying, like maybe I don't know if he was trying to infuse them with something to make them force sensitive, or maybe they're just these really badass like troopers. I don't know, but if they're trying to get something back to the power of, like, say, Darth Vader or the Emperor, because I don't know, maybe they don't think this is gonna work. Maybe Palpatine's little contingency here. Maybe he just doesn't think, okay, well, this guy kind of got thrown down to reactor shaft and went kaboom.
Yeah, I think it's likely that what. Go ahead.
Well, no, yeah, they don't have. I was gonna say that was my last point. Was they don't have like an intimidating force like Darth Vader or the Emperor anymore. So maybe because I was looking at it on the screen like, the hell is that? I know maybe it's supposed to be vague, but I'm like, you mentioned Snoke. I'm like, oh, that could be because he is coming. Maybe that he ended up being the of this. I don't know.
Yeah, just visually looking at it, it's likely that this experiment that he's doing is going to result in the creation of Snoke. That's what it visually looks like.
Maybe we'll actually get some, not closure, but like, because I know everyone complained about, hey, he was like a hologram, and we're like, oh, who is this new like big bad? Who is this guy, Snoke? And then we finally saw him in the Last Jedi, Last Jedi. So many damn Star Wars movies now. I'm getting old and forgetful. We actually saw him, and it's like he kind of just, hey, my birthday's on Monday, right? Age is only going one way. I know I have no room to talk. I know I don't. But he kind of just got taken out like a bitch. I don't know. And we're all kind of like, oh, well, there went that guy, I guess. Maybe Jon Favreau is trying to do, or whoever else is also writing / directing all this, producing it, is maybe trying to give that a little more weight, because it just kind of seemed like, oh, there he is, there he goes.
We do see, after all the events that go on at this base, we do see the New Republic Captain Carson Teva, who is apparently tracking the Razor Crest after being one of the two X-Wing pilots that saved Mandalorian and Baby Yoda from their spidery death a couple episodes ago. He shows up looking for the ship, but when he talks to Karga, he ain't saying nothing. He's not giving him up at all. Tiva also ends up appealing to Kara's sense of duty by asking her to assist the New Republic in policing the Outer Rim. And we do learn through their conversation that Kara lost everyone when the Empire destroyed Alderaan, which we found out is her homeworld in this episode. What did you think about that little connection to the original trilogy?
It was nice, and I feel like it did mention that. You even see it on the excuse me, on the pilot's face. It's kind of like you mentioned Alderaan, and anyone who wasn't one of those little Empire bastards, you just kind of get like like you know what that was about. And I like that delivery where he so it's kind of amazing, like there is someone who survived, like was from there and is still alive to that day. And he asked her, like, hey, did you lose anybody? And that was you could tell she's like, no, I lost everyone. Like, that's kind of that's probably her motivation, like, my whole planet just got gone. Which, that's also Princess Leia's home planet too. So that's kind of I guess that kind of shows us like what her whole deal is, and maybe why she's got this maybe like rage and like resentment for the Empire, because they just kind of took her home away, and for what?
Tiva does say something in this conversation that I think is significant to exactly where this at least this season is going forward, where it's going to be. He says there's something going on out there. They don't believe it on the core worlds, but it's true. I think he's referring to the fact that the rebellion, which is now the governing faction in the universe, the good guys, know that something's happening. They just maybe don't know what we saw at the during the course of this episode. So, I mean, this could end up leading to a much bigger battle than just the Mandalorian versus, Giancarlo Esposito's character or something like that. This could be leading to something a bit bigger. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I wasn't quite... I don't know why, because I know you said he was the pilot along with the other guy who found Mando in that cave with all the spiders, and they just kind of, I guess, came to a conclusion of, hey, let's just call this even. Not gonna, help you, but we kind of helped you, so we're cool. But I didn't know when he said there's something going on over here. I'm like, I didn't know if he thought maybe he knew about, like he maybe heard about the plant or the lab blowing up, and maybe because it just seems, because I mean when he's having that conversation with Carl Weathers, he's like, I didn't say the Razor Crest, I didn't say Mando was here. You are saying that. He seems just after him for some reason. I thought maybe that's what he meant, like, oh, something's going on around here. But I don't know, maybe he realizes there is something bigger going on, and it may spill over to, again, whatever Moff Gideon's grand plan is here. This isn't just little workings of some backwater lab in the middle of Navarro. Like, this might be something bigger, because this is leading up to the First Order. Because something is that widespread, that had to have not happened quick, but that's boom, it just moved in.
We finally do get a shot of Moff Gideon on camera again for the first time. It wasn't a hologram so far in this season, and a shot that directly references the opening of the New Hope. We cut to an Imperial cruiser going, kind of over the camera through space, and one of the mechanics who repaired the Razor Crest has also planted a tracker on the ship again, like a New Hope, because yay, 1977. So obviously Gideon is back on Mando and Baby Yoda's trail again. So that's probably the next step in what is going to be another confrontation between those two guys at some point this year.
And he still took the cookies with him. He threw up on himself, but hey. Also, I mean, can we have a nice little, nice moment when, like, he's trying to do... I mean, it's badass. He's just taking out these TIE fighters that were left. But little fucking Baby Yoda back there in the back throwing his hands up like he's on a fucking ride. He's just having the time of his life.
Yeah, actually, I was watching something... A point was made on another video that I was watching on YouTube, is when Baby Yoda steals those cookies from that kid in the classroom, that is actually the first time so far this season we've actually seen him using his Force powers. And I think that's a good thing, because it happened a couple of times last season where they were in a bind and they just kind of pointed Baby Yoda out there and he did his Force stuff and then they got out. I'm glad to see that they're not just relying on that this year. because they're actually going a lot of other directions and getting these people using their own skills to get through their various adventures, because that was becoming a little bit of a trope, kind of like the always needing to do something for somebody for some information kind of thing.
Yeah, he doesn't always do it either. Like sometimes I kind of hope like, oh, God, please come on, come through, just save him, just do something. And I get it, he's a child, he doesn't quite understand, so I don't know if he even understands what he's doing. But because I guess it is more of like a deep connection and a feeling, because he's like, I want those goddamn cookies, kid, and I'm gonna take them from you. So he's just like, whoop, mine. And yeah, the other time we saw him as well, like he kind of got that weird connection with the Mandalorian, and he saved him from that big horned animal, whatever, was about to just like spear his ass,
there was something else interesting in that
right
scene
up
with.
the ground.
Yeah, there was something else interesting in that final scene with Moff Gideon. There appeared to be a room that we have not seen before that was containing this Imperial armor, because he's got a very Darth Vader look about him. I don't know if you've ever noticed his chest piece and all that, but he's looking very Darth Vader-y in his costume, especially this year. And it's kind of hard to make out the details of the armor on the wall, but it's clearly something, or else it wouldn't have featured so prominently in that shot. So I'm very curious to see what that's going to turn into.
I was wondering if that was kind of Darth Vader, because I was trying to look at what those suits were. They look like not like the pilots, but like there are like dark troopers that are like clad in that black armor. But I don't know if maybe that's maybe he's trying to make his own little special faction of like these like crazy ass fucking like troopers just for him, maybe. Because like Vader had his own little faction they always called Vader's Fists, which was like his go-to thing of troops that would go out and do shit for him, and they were like the hardened, like best of the best. You didn't want to be there when they were there, right? Because you're gonna die, maybe that's kind of what his whole angle is. I don't know. It's got something. There's, like you said, there's something going on here.
It's going to be awesome when we see it. But there are a bunch of little Easter eggs and observations that are in this episode that are kind of throwbacks to the original trilogy. One of them is the protocol droid that's teaching the class. It's reminding everybody about the New Republic's rotating capital world and things like that. Let's see, I think it mentions that the Chancellor is Mon Mothma, who actually uttered that famous line, "Many Bothans died to bring us this information in Return of the Jedi." So that was kind of a little Easter egg. Another one was the fact that Mithril, the blue ghillie guy, who you can actually see on the screen right now, he's actually suffering from hibernation sickness. He mentions he can't see out of his left eye. That's kind of a throwback to Han Solo not being able to see for a while after he came out of the carbonite. Also, there was a little bit of musical note.
What?
There was a little bit of a musical note. The music that plays as the heroes look at all these test tubes and stuff like that in that scene in the base, it's very similar to Snoke's theme from The Force Awakens and from Palpatine, a couple of scenes from Palpatine talking to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. So there's a little bit of a connection to that as well.
Right then. That could be the little setup there.
It could be a little bit of a setup. Well, that's everything I've got for Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4. Jeremy, you got anything to say in closing?
Nope. I'm excited. Still excited to see Ahsoka Tano dressed up like Rosario Dawson. Or vice versa, whatever, I don't care. I still want to see that.
It is going to be very, very fun. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. And all I've got to say in closing is, how long do you think it's going to be before we see the internet flooded with Baby Yoda puking blue gifs all over the place?
Memes happen very fast, my friend. It's probably already there.
The internet age, one of the many gifts we get is GIFs, ironically enough. But anyway, that's it for right now. Go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys thought of this episode titled The Siege, the 4th episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys later.